Hello, welcome to the Pop Culture Clash. I am Marcus Beer, and I am back. I was away last week. I apologize for that, but I'm sure you didn't miss me. Joining me today, John Santo.
Greetings.
And my old Google boy, Jeremy Hoffman.
Hello, hello.
So let's go through the news. We've got a lot to catch up on today, and we will talk about some things in particular. End of the show, Gravity, which I haven't seen yet.
So you could leave for that
I'm
portion.
going to leave. Yeah, I'm going to leave and just sob in a corner.
Wow.
But let's go through the news.
Just like the movie.
Fantastic Four reboot.
Yes.
Yay.
There is a rumored cast.
Well, the only reason, I mean, let's be honest, the only reason I'm interested in this is this all ties into Game of Thrones. So Kit Harington is rumored to be trying out for the role.
Sorry,
Is
who
that
does Kit Harington play on Game of Thrones?
Jon Snow.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's
Oh, nothing.
I don't. Well, no. Jon Snow to me is the guy that can't close his mouth.
So he's basically
that's
trying out a
dead
Sue
on.
Storm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. What, he would be...
he'd go for Reed Richards.
He'd be Reed, so
Yeah.
we're going way younger.
Yeah,
right?
well,
Like, looking at the casting, it means we're going, like, origins, like, actual origin story. None of this, like, hire guys that are 40 and then have them play themselves when they're 18
Right.
and the shit goes down. So that's interesting. We've got, who else? Michael B. Jordan. He's wanted to play Human Torch for a while. He's great. He was in Chronicle.
Yep. And it's being directed by the guy. Right now, the director attached to it is the guy that directed Chronicle as well. Who's
Cool.
I'd feel bad because I can't think of his name.
And then we have Kate Mara as maybe Sue Storm, and then the incredibly difficult to pronounce Cerise Ronan. Guessing he's Irish.
Also,
Very,
yeah.
very, very pale, very red hair.
So who would he play? The
She.
Thing? She?
She.
Hang on.
She.
So hang on. All right.
She could. Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, this is basically.
There's a lot of, like, this is people that have said they've that
These are
they've,
people that have auditioned.
All right. So I
auditioned
actually
for it.
thause this was like
No.
this was nailed in.
No.
As,
No,
this was
'cause,
looking
Terry Crews wants to play the Thing, which could be
hysterical.
hilarious.
So the Fantastic Four reboot, I mean, basically Fox had the option of either returning Fantastic Four to Marvel or Daredevil, and Marvel got Daredevil back because they had both of them. They had to sort of like start production by a certain day or pre-production by a certain day.
Right.
I actually the original Fantastic Four movie, and I mean not the original that was
Not the
was it
Roger
the Roger
Corman?
Corman
Yeah.
that you had to
90.
buy bootleg copies
Yeah.
at Comic-Con and like one of the back halls.
That was
yeah.
that was a fun hunt for that one for a long time. That was always that and the Captain America.
but also the Star Wars Christmas special.
Special, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, the one
Excuse
with
Holiday special.
Right.
It was non-denominational.
Wookiee
It was
Life Day.
yeah.
Wookiee Life Day. Yes. It was
Wookiee cookies for the win.
everybody's favorite holiday.
I said corrected. But yeah, that first movie, I mean, there was nothing really wrong with the cast that they had that time. I thought Johan Griffith did a pretty good job as Reed Richards. In fact, the only issue I had at all was Doom. Dr. Doom, and the fact that he was just, I mean, is it Julian, what's his face from
Yeah.
Nip Tuck?
Yeah.
I really even didn't have a problem to a certain degree with Sue Storm and Jessica Alba. I mean, she's not exactly the world's greatest actress, and it was quite a difficult sell to think of her as this brilliant geneticist. But Michael Chiklis, I
Reminds
thought,
me of Christmas Jones.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Actually, that's funny. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
But yeah, Chiklis is Ben Grimm.
Chris Evans.
No, it was like
Chris,
it was,
Chris Evans as the Human Torch was actually
yeah.
the
They
main casting.
they
Yeah.
were really close with that film, and then it just took a turn for the worse. And
Yeah.
then the sequels just.
Oh, Rise
horrific.
of the Silver Surfer. Yes, that was.
Well, they hadn't figured out. Nobody had figured out. Well, no, that's not true because X-Men had come before that. Was Batman Begins before the first Fantastic Four? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Okay.
I
Anyways.
can't
That was
remember.
all right around the same
Yeah.
time.
While we're talking about Rise of the Silver Surfer, Galactus, the world-ending cloud.
Yeah.
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 That's just one of those things when you're like, just don't even bring in Galactus.
Yeah. Figure
Like,
out.
just don't go there yet. Like, that just seems like a really bad idea because they obviously didn't want to have the giant,
Purple.
dude that's like eating the earth. Like,
Yeah.
fair enough, but then just don't do it. Like,
Well, I mean, in the Ultimate there was the Ultimate Galactus books that they did. They tackled it more as an AI swarm,
you're right.
and I thought that kind of worked well. And I think that's something they kind of missed out on with the second movie. But do we need a Fantastic Four reboot?
Do we need it? No.
We don't
I'll
need
take
any of
it.
them, yeah.
I'll take it.
I mean, and let's face it, this isn't Marvel Studios producing for Fox. This
No.
is Fox doing their own. So
Right.
it's not as if we're going to get the level of attention that, or detail that, we got with Avengers or with Thor or with Captain America or with Iron Man, where, that was Marvel's vision.
Sure, but Fox has handled, for the most part, the X-Men series pretty well.
They've had equal ups as
X3,
they've had
downs,
Wolverine Origins.
So that's 2 out of the 5.
The second Wolverine movie, which was kind of hit and miss.
I thought it was
more hit
yeah, I
than
thought
miss.
more
It's a
hit
solid
than
triple.
miss.
I would say of the 6 X-Men and X-Men and spin-offs, I would say they've got a 50% strike rate right now, with the first 2, X2 being the pinnacle, and then First Class being and Days of Future Past. Let's hope if they can bring Days of Future Past home, and because that's going to be really interesting, and bring it out to the standard that was X2, and the standard that is maybe Avengers, then we can look at Fantastic Four with less trepidation.
Right.
I think they're getting there. They've taken a couple steps in the right direction. I'd like to see where they go.
Josh Trank. I'm trying to remember the director's
Speaking
name.
of, though,
Sorry. Go ahead.
Days of Future Past
And Game of Thrones.
And Game of Thrones. See, this all ties in.
Oh.
Peter Dinklage is attached to be in an upcoming Leprechaun comedy film in the vein of Bad Santa, where he tries to convince people that he is. It's like by
That
the
could be
director.
fun.
It's
Oh,
by
is
the
it?
director of Bad Santa. Like it's gonna be.
So it's not.
I sent you that link yesterday.
I know.
It's not-
I don't click
it's
on
not
things.
Leprechaun.
I fear being robbed.
It's not Leprechaun as in the Warwick Davis.
No, this is
no.
like a
Leprechaun.
comedy where he's trying to convince people that he's really a leprechaun. I'm sure he'll end up scamming them along the way, which
I could see him doing this. Honestly, I mean, look, I love him in Game of Thrones, but I loved his SNL cameo as Drunk Uncle's
yeah,
brother.
he's great. I
Was
love him in just about anything.
The Station Agent,
so-
he was fantastic
Station
as well.
Agent was
That's-
Did you ever see Death at a Funeral?
the-
Either
the-
two?
I saw the original one. I started watching the
Because he was in both. He played the same character in both, and he was
I
great
started
in
watching
those.
the American version, and then I just started crying.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
Huh.
So yes, like anything with Dinklage in it. I mean, I'm so looking forward to him in Future Past. It's
Trask, giant sentinels with his face. I love it.
yeah, it's gonna be brilliant. All right, next one.
This is all you.
Very exciting. The BBC have reported that a lot of the original Doctor Who episodes were the first 2 Doctors of William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, which had been lost. I mean, there are episodes that were lost for the longest time because the BBC would record and then just record over the tape or delete. But over the years, stuff has started to appear in private collections. When they've sent stuff overseas to PBS and stuff like that, it's been found in vaults, and as many as 100 episodes have been found.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that many. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, there are certain. I mean, they've released DVDs of for example, some of the Troughton era
Sure,
stuff,
right.
where the one episode of the Ark
Right.
is all animatics. And it's an animated comic because they got the audio tracks.
Right.
They
But
have
they
the
don't.
audio tracks, but they don't have the thing, and it kind of works. I mean, it takes you out of it. But to be able to see some of this stuff, I mean, Tomb of the Cybermen for the longest time was one of the holy grails, and that one was found not too long ago, and then BBC aired it as part of their Doctors Revisited this year, and it's just a great story. But I'm looking forward to being able to see some of these that I have never seen. I mean, there was all these episodes I have never seen because they were before my time and they never went into repeat. I mean, they basically went through the first showing, maybe a second showing in the
gone.
60s,
Yeah.
but by the early 70s they were long gone. So,
So to go back at how these were like lost, because we were talking about this a little bit this morning.
Right.
Tapes that they make, that they would use to air these are very expensive. So they
especially in 1960s.
so they
Yeah.
would just record over an
Yeah.
episode when they were, editing
Yep.
the next one. They would just take their master and wipe it and start over. And I don't know, just someone that has to deliver a TV show every week, the amount of disaster masters and copies, and Elise is now standing behind us just nodding her head because she's the one that gets to send all these things out.
Right.
Like there's so much backing up that we have to do to make sure that the stuff isn't lost.
Back
Right.
then, everything though was looked at disposable.
Right,
I mean, the
it's-
concept of repeats, but where didn't come into play. The concept of
Well, this is well before home video.
Syndication.
or
syndication,
anything.
home
home
video.
video, none of that stuff
Yeah.
was
And plus,
any possibility.
this was a show that was a kids sci-fi show on
Right.
Saturday
Right.
afternoon,
Right.
and it was sneered upon by lots of people at the BBC. But I am so looking forward, and I'm hoping now the BBC gives them the full treatment, restores them, and releases. And look, my ideal is I've got them, a lot of them on DVD, but I want a Blu-ray fully, everything ultra set of the original, the first, 8, 9 Doctors.
Were they actual tapes that were found, or were they like
There's
film
tapes.
prints that were
I
burned
think
from tapes or something
there's
like that?
prints,
or-
there's tapes. There's like a mixture of stuff.
Okay.
I mean, it's a
They're having to
veritable
go through it.
treasure trove. And I think they actually have a Doctor Who archivist now at the BBC, and I'm sure his pants got wet. So next up, Snoochie Boochies.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've just been handed this with a piece of paper, piece of paper with writing on it. And what's the deal? Why Kevin Smith's retiring? What? I mean, didn't he? He's retired Jay and Silent Bob, and he's retired Clerks, and now he's supposed to be doing Clerks 3, and he did Red whatchamacallit,
Yep.
Red State.
Red State, which was a departure for him and a very uncomfortable film to watch.
Yes.
It's a
I'm
fantastic.
not saying it's a bad film. It's
Yeah,
just,
no,
it's
it's
uncomfortable. It's
very
supposed to
uncomfortable.
be.
It's
Yeah.
great. But I mean, he's got the Comic Book Men, he's got the Smodcast, he's got Jay and Silent Bob on tour worldwide. Where's this retiring thing come from?
So
He actually announced retiring after Red State. He was going
Right.
to make 2 more movies. He was going to make Clerks 3, and he was going to make
hit somebody.
Hit
so
Somebody, right.
John and I both listen to, I think, Kevin's
Yeah.
podcast
Yeah.
a lot. There's Smodcast, which is his main one with his
Right.
producing partner Scott
Yeah,
Mosier.
well, he's got the whole Smodcast network. He's got
Network.
just like a ton of shows.
But I feel like that's the one that most of this information comes out
Yes,
on. So
correct.
Smodcast is the main one. He announced that he was going to retire after Red State. He was going to make one more film that was going to become Hit Somebody, which
right.
is his hockey movie. That's
Yes.
now going to become a miniseries.
because the script became so unruly and big and epic
it
that
was going to be like he
He
wanted
didn't
it was
wanna
going
cut
to be
it
3
down.
movies.
Yeah.
He was going to,
so then
Twilight it and
right.
split it into 2.
So then he decided, okay, well that's a TV series, so I'll still make that's a TV show, so I'll still make that, which means I've got one more movie, which is going to be Clerks 3, and now there's been like a whole back and forth with Clerks 3 about it
Well,
being
there
turned
was-
into a comic for a while, and then it's
there
like
was issues with the financing with
Yeah.
the Weinsteins.
There's
and I
all
think
kinds
some
of
of the actors still haven't been paid for Clerks 2.
bizarre stuff on that.
And so they don't want to jump into a Clerks 3 or don't feel like they've been paid what they deserve or whatever,
something
however that
funky.
works.
But so in the meantime, what happened was on his podcast, he ran across a news story, and that was hysterical. The story itself is a riot, and from that, all of a sudden, this idea just sprang from his mind, full formed. For a movie called Tusk, which is actually going to start shooting very soon.
Very soon, yeah.
And Tusk is the concept of Tusk. The original story that Tusk is based on was it on?
I can't even not.
I know, yeah.
So it's just
So Tusk was a story about a man who put out an ad on Craigslist or something like that.
Something. It was like one of those Craigslist.
He had lived in, I believe, Alaska for a long time, or out in the tundra somewhere, by himself, where he really just kind of got in touch with himself, and his only friend was a walrus. He moves back to the States to rejoin society, and he's just missing something from his life, right? The guy's pretty well off. He's got a nice little home. He's got a spare bedroom that he decides to rent out to college students. He will rent the room to a college student free, including room and board,
everything.
Everything.
That's all included.
but for 3 hours a night.
I thought it was like an hour
Hour
a
a night.
day.
Okay, an
but
hour a day,
I mean,
couple hours a day. You have to wear a lifelike walrus costume and act like a walrus for him.
No speaking English. You have
That's
to
right.
speak
You have to
walrus.
catch fish.
He's gonna throw fish at you.
Right, and that's all you have to do. That's all. That's the
And this
wages
is
of sin.
for serious.
So this
for
was on
reals.
like Craigslist.
This was the original ad. This was the original
So
thing.
they
story.
do weird news stories on Smodcast, and
Yeah.
Kevin, in his
and
very
Scott Mosier,
stoned, addled mind.
yeah. Really, they went off. I mean, they went off on it for probably a good hour.
About-
it was hysterical.
Yeah, and
The
it was
whole thing
about a
just
dude that puts
fascinating.
this ad and then started
anyways,
kidnapping people and turning them into human walruses and
Yeah.
human centipede.
It becomes this very bizarre story in his head, which he then becomes the concept for his script for Tusk. Now the story, the true story itself turned out to be a fake ad.
Okay.
The actual thing, many weeks later, turned out to be a bogus story.
It was something by Jimmy Kimmel.
Until
yes, exactly.
until I retire,
Right.
and put that ad out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
You're just going to make people dress like Ewoks, though.
Oh, so many.
So the movie is going to star Michael Parks as from Red State. He was the minister in Red State. He's going to be playing the old man. Justin Long is going to be playing our walrus suit cladded college student. And originally Tarantino had been asked to play a French Canadian cop or detective of some sort.
So ridiculous.
Pretty bizarre, yeah. And he declined. I forget what the reasoning was behind that. But yeah, so it goes into production very soon, and so it's going to be, but it's not going to be a comedy, is what it sounds. It sounds to me like
it's like
dark thriller,
another kind of
Red State dark thriller
horror movie.
which I'm
Coming of age.
Yes, yeah, coming of something. It's it may be a little long in the
Tooth.
Hey, yeah, but it's I don't know. I don't want Smith to retire. I mean, and again, maybe he's finding passion again with this film or with things like that, because Red State for me was such a great left turn in his career that I was like, wow, there's something really new and fresh about that this guy's willing to put out there. So if Tusk can, it's not going to be, I think, as gripping, as horrific, as nightmarish, as uncomfortable. I don't know, man. A guy in a walrus suit could be pretty uncomfortable.
It's a creepy dude in a walrus
But anyways,
suit.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited about kind of this new turn in his career. So Tusk, I think fingers crossed, is going to be a blast.
And if you haven't seen Red State, go see it.
It's on-
it's on Netflix streaming. So
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
Little break.
Little break.
Little break.
Little break. So because of the video player, if you don't get to see this second half, sorry.